You voted for Kamala. Why? Just because
Because
it's not Trump?
very rational.
No, hold on. What did you? I want to hold on. You voted. This is what drives me crazy about your side. You guys voted
for the lesser of two evils.
That is what policy were you going for? What do you think that she was going to?
Patrick Bet-David has on Sam Seder live on the PBD Podcast on the Valuetainment YouTube channel, and things took a little bit of a turn here when Sam Seder brought up this one specific topic to the entire PBD panel, and the PBD panel just had to absolutely explode on him when this one specific topic got brought up. And things got pretty heated here, as you could see in the intro. Let's go ahead and get into this clip here where the entire PBD panel had to annihilate Sam Seder when this one specific topic got brought up on the PBD Podcast on the Valuetainment YouTube channel live.
Way Biden beat Trump. People don't want a person like Trump. And then America watched all the policies that you support. Biden comes president. He does what he does. 4 years later, his vice president, his VP, Kamala Harris,
Google antitrust and see how popular it is.
His VP runs for office, runs for office, loses every battleground state, 89 county, 50 for 50 states become more Republican. And you're sitting here saying you guys think you got better policies?
No, I think Kamala Harris.
This is a policy conversation.
Kamala Harris is. I mean, I think. Look, I think it was what Biden did in staying in was atrocious. He should have gotten out way earlier.
Yeah.
There's a story coming out now of like Ron Klain seeing him before the debate and realizing the guy was a mess. And I think Harris's campaign was also poorly run. I think that nobody could tell what her policies were. Mark Cuban's going out there saying we're going to get rid of. Right, I agree. Mark Cuban's coming out there saying like, oh, don't worry, she's not going to do any more of this antitrust stuff. On one hand, I don't want a billionaire coming out and speaking for my candidate.
Did you vote for her? Or did you sit that one out?
No, I voted for.
I think Patrick Bet-David is absolutely dominating this conversation, and Sam just keeps proving how out of touch he really is. Patrick lays out exactly how frustrated Americans are after years of being talked down to, lied to, and told everything's fine while the country just falls apart. Sam tries to spin losses like Kamala Harris's disaster of a campaign, Biden's obvious decline, and failures of Democratic policies as if they're minor issues. But Patrick isn't letting him get away with this one. Patrick points out how Democrats ran Biden not because he was strong, but because he was simply not Trump. And everybody knew he wasn't actually in charge. You didn't have to be a genius to see it. Biden said himself multiple times that he wasn't allowed to take questions that, quote unquote, they told him what to do. And Sam acts like that's normal. Give me a break. When it comes to the economy, Sam tries to blame inflation on the pandemic, on supply chains, on everything except bad leadership. But Patrick holds him accountable for it, showing that people aren't stupid. They know reckless spending, endless stimulus checks, and terrible economic policies made everything worse. Sam wants to throw out textbook answers to sound smart, but he refuses to admit the obvious. Inflation exploded because of government failure, not just COVID. And when Patrick brings up Elon Musk exposing government waste, Sam's response is even more embarrassing. Instead of being mad at the waste and the corruption that Musk points out, Sam gets mad at Musk himself because in his mind it's more offensive to tell the truth rather than waste billions of taxpayer dollars. Sam tries to make this weak argument about democracy, saying billionaires shouldn't influence anything, but Elon isn't running the government. He's just exposing what the government's been hiding. And that's really what bothers people like Sam, for example. They're more loyal to the system, even when it's broken, than they are to the people paying for it. Patrick keeps pushing the real issues why inflation hit Americans so hard, why people are fed up with being treated like they're just stupid, why voters don't trust the same tired political figures anymore. And Sam has no real answer for it. He fumbles around, blaming random economic factors, pretending like everything would have been perfect. Patrick's argument is clear, focused, and hits home because it's rooted in reality. Sam sounds like every other out-of-touch commentator who can't understand why the average American is angry. Patrick gets it. He's speaking for the people who've had enough of being lectured by elites for refusing to fix anything. And honestly, if this conversation showed anything, it's that Patrick Bet-David is willing to talk about the hard truths while Sam is stuck defending a system that has clearly failed. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments.
You voted for Kamala. Why? Just because
Because
it's not
I
Trump?
vote-
very
No,
rational.
but hold on.
I'll answer you.
What did you? I want to hold on.
I'm
You
shocked if
voted.
you
This is what drives me crazy about your side. You guys
I voted for the lesser of two evils.
That is what policy were you going for? What do you think that she was going to do different? What can you possibly? I would rather have you sit that one out, Sam. Go ahead.
I'll tell you.
Go ahead.
She was not going to cut Social Security functioning. She's not going to cut the USDA. She's not going to cut the FDA. She's not going to lose us $500 billion worth of return on investment with the IRS. She's not going to cut the Bureau of Labor Statistics. She's not going to cut 300
investment
return
theft,
on investment.
Theft, tax avoid.
Every dollar that you give to the IRS will get 6 or 7 back. She's not going to cut the museum
Did you
and
just
library.
say that?
Google it. Every dollar spent at the IRS gets 6 back in returns.
Goodness.
They're anticipating the cuts from Doge. The cuts from Doge are going to cost our government $500 billion.
According to who?
Studies suggest.
All right, I undersold it a little bit.
According to who?
Okay, well, you can spend time attacking the people who do these calculations. Do you need me to tell you more about why?
What I'm just curious. Yeah, I'm just curious to
just
what
rando tariffs applied in a willy-nilly fashion that crash the economy.
So you don't think the tariffs that Trump is, and I get it. That's exactly, the tariffs are exactly what America needs right now. Because let's just go to the border. What he did with the border with Mexico, with the tariffs, what happened to fentanyl? What happened to all the deaths? What happened to all those illegals that are coming? What do you mean? He threatened them, and they went to war.
Fentanyl comes across the border at ports of entry. Fentanyl comes across the border, not in illegals crossing the desert. It comes in.
Oh, really? Coyotes really?
It comes in.
Yep.
Yeah. It comes in at ports of entry. Google that.
Sam, I don't need to Google when it's like
yes, you do.
You said you voted for someone. You're coming up with these policies. The worst pick ever, the biggest loss ever. She lost everything because your side. You're talking about
I don't even
people.
know what
Wait,
that
guys, let me ask you a question. You're acting like your whole side was surprised that Biden wasn't there. Everybody knew, including you, he wasn't there at all. But you guys are like, he's just not Trump. The worst president in the history of the world are in this country 4 years because you guys were pretending that he was all there and we knew it. And who was making all the decisions? Who was making all the decisions? Who was signing all the shit? Who was signing off? How many times did you have to see Biden sitting there and they'd ask him a question and he'd go, oh, I can't because they told me I couldn't. He wasn't in charge.
Who?
Yeah, who was they? Come on, Sam. It's like the most devastating loss. The world, the country is over it. You guys aren't pivoting. Okay? And if you think the future is Gavin Newsom, AOC, Bernie Sanders, and Jasmine Crockett, you guys are doomed. Nothing is going to change. And Elon Musk, you think Elon Musk is a net positive or a net negative for society for what he's doing? And pointing out what the hell these people have been screwing us for all these years, and he's pointing out. You guys are mad at the person pointing out who robbed from you than the actual robber. That's the truth, bro. Yeah, he's a billionaire. You think he's doing it because he needs the money?
What fraud has he found?
What do you mean? How much fraud has he found?
Yeah, where's the person who is going to be indicted for fraud?
Well, what about the waste?
What waste?
Because it's not. Stop it, Sam.
What waste? They just cut the agency that provides $295 million to museums and libraries. You appreciate libraries, don't you? I know how much reading is
Sam,
important to you.
Sam, you're pinpointing the one good thing that they probably did.
Wait.
What about the waste of countries all around the world for LGBTQ agendas in Rwanda or something?
The money you're talking about.
Do you want money going to
a fraction of a percentage? And if we wanted to get rid of that money, there is a way of doing it, and that is to have Congress vote and reverse what they authorized in the first place.
Sam.
But to have a billionaire come in and decide, based upon what his personal preferences are, that he's going to cut government in this way, I'm sorry, that's not democracy. It's not even remotely close to it.
He doesn't have the power to do anything. He makes a suggestion.
Why do you think
and
Americans
the administration
voted for this?
will do it?
Why do you think Americans voted for
I don't
these
think
policies?
Americans heard the word Doge outside of it being some type of
cryptocurrency
before.
Why do you think Americans voted for Trump?
Well, I think because they want change.
In what?
What were they not happy with?
I think inflation was a big part of it for them.
What else you think?
I think for for a 90% of his voters voted for Mitt Romney. I think there is the Republican Party wants to, have tax cuts.
How do we get inflation? How does inflation
Can we
happen?
stay in 2024? You said inflation. What
Tom,
else?
give me 1 second. How does inflation happen?
Inflation can happen in a couple of different ways. Inflation can happen because you have too much monetary supply.
Yeah.
Inflation can happen in terms of both from a monetary supply level or a fiscal stimulus.
Right.
And inflation can also happen if you have a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic that completely screws up all of your logistics. And so you've got, shipping containers that usually cost $4,000 to ship, but now they cost $22,000 to get because they're in far-flung places because the pandemic.
That was in
screwed up.
2021. That was in 2020.
Well, It reverberates through the thing. We saw inflation dropping through 2024.
Sure.
We saw rate cuts on the table because we saw inflation dropping.
Do you think any of it was with, again, so those are the main two issues. You don't think anything else. So you mainly think it was inflation, and your second point was?
Well, I think in large part, we have structural problems in this country. And that's why we keep getting change elections where we keep going back and forth. I would say those structural problems range from, I think a lot of them have to do with wealth inequality.
Okay. So you think Democrats are better at helping wealth inequality or Republicans?
I think Democrats are marginally better.
Tell me, due to what policy?
Well, taxation helps. That's a big part. Strengthening labor. I think, during Biden, I have a lot of problems with Biden, but
where 6% of the workers work from home. Yeah. So
strengthening labor strength in the marketplace helps with wealth inequality. I think antitrust goes a long way to wealth inequality because it literally is to break up the concentration of wealth.
Here's the other question for you. So Trump's closed up the border, right? Where we are not getting, and like this, numbers have dropped dramatically.
Well, if you go back and look in the, and I don't necessarily agree with Biden doing this, but if you go back and look at the numbers starting in the summer of 2024, maybe a little bit before.
Stop it.
I'm sorry. Look, just put it up there.
When he started
But listen, I'm not in favor of him doing this, but he did do it. Wait, put up the graph of.
So you mean in an election year? An election year, he tried to slow down the border.
Let me just get through this, and then guys, here's what I'd like to do.
I'm not in favor of it, but he did it.
I'd like to get through some stories, but I just want to close the knot here and move on because we're not going to make any progress.
See if you can get a graph.
The PBD panel absolutely handled this conversation better than Sam. No question about it whatsoever. Sam kept trying to defend voting for Kamala Harris and Biden with a bunch of weak points that didn't hold up under any real pressure. Patrick and the entire panel pressed him on real issues: inflation, border security, government waste. He had no answers for it. Instead of acknowledging the disaster that Biden administration has been, he tried to throw out complicated excuses and random stats that didn't even address the core problem. Americans are tired of being lied to and ignored. When the PBD panel pointed out Biden clearly wasn't running the show and that Kamala was one of the least popular politicians in the country, Sam danced around it like everyone didn't already see the obvious. Even when it came to talking about inflation and border security, he couldn't give a straight answer without trying to spin it like the Democrats have done anything meaningful to fix it. Patrick and the rest of the panel stayed focused on reality. They spoke to what real Americans are feeling, not political talking points. And honestly, that's why the PBD panel comes across so much stronger. They're actually grounded in facts and common sense, not just defending failure of loyalty to a broken system. And I think this last election really showed that people want change. I mean, the stats don't lie. Let me know what you guys think about this video in the comments, and I'll see you guys on the next topic.